It has been a while in the making, but here we are at the threshold, having gone a long way and at the beginning of yet another road. And this is my great pleasure to introduce the participants of this morning's conference. Mr. Vitas Vasiliauskas, the chairman of the board of the Bank of Lithuania. Mr. Algirdas Butkevičius, Prime Minister of the Republic of Lithuania. Mr. Mario Draghi, President of the European Central Bank. Mr. Jyrki Katainen, Vice President of the European Commission and Commissioner in charge of the Economic and Monetary Affairs. And Mr. Rimantas Šadžius, the Finance Minister of the Republic of Lithuania. We now have a few moments for the visual media to take pictures and videos. And to open the conference, Chairman Vitas Vasiliauskas is invited to take the floor.
Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to welcome you to the Euro Changeover Conference. By accepting our invitation today, you are, in a way, part of the premiere. The first event accomplished by Lietuvos Bankas and the European Central Bank together. I believe you will enjoy the result. But before we dive into discussion, let me share the latest news from my institution. This morning we welcomed a very distinguished guest. Mario Draghi, the president of the ECB, presented Lietuvos Bankas with the Eurostar, a symbol confirming that the National Bank of Lithuania has accepted into the Euro family. Thank you, Mario, for the message. To be precise, thank you for the big message that covers so many aspects and that is, given the current geopolitical risks, all the more relevant today. Recently, a foreign journalist asked me, what does the euro mean for Lithuania? And suggested an answer. Does entry into the Eurozone mark the completion of disconnection from Russia? He was surprised when my answer was no. This does not mark disconnection from Russia. Disconnection was decided on and marked a quarter of the century ago. The euro in Lithuania confirms that our decision then was firm and final. Our European orientation is consistent and irreversible. And we are ready, willing, and fully prepared for deeper EU integration. Dear colleagues, I have just mentioned integration. One of the key words that most likely will be in the air for the next few hours. To make sure that nobody gets lost in translation, let us stick to the classic definition. Integration, bringing together, combining into an integral whole. Not one joining other, not one blending into the rest, but clearly and definitely coming together into a whole. Consequently, integration is not a sponsor-recipient or patron-ward relation, but a two-way traffic and a deliberate and dutiful partnership in it. I will be open. We are often asked about the benefits for us of adopting the euro, but very rarely about what we will bring to the club. As bankers, we know that there are two sides to a coin. So, how do the two, the inviting and the invited parties, benefit from this deal that will be sealed in less than 100 days? This time, let me start with the inviting party. Reviving growth, boosting competitiveness, safeguarding financial stability. These are top three tasks for the Eurozone today. And in my view, Lithuania has good potential to contribute to getting ahead in all three directions. I will speak in facts. Lithuania is one of the fastest growing economies in the EU. It will be one of the fastest growing in the Eurozone as well. After taking into account the impact of the recent trade restrictions, we forecast 2.9% real GDP growth for this year and 3.3% next year. And most importantly, these numbers are neither the consequence of good luck nor of some base effect. We are adopting the euro from a strong and sustainable basis, exceeding the pre-crisis level of output without any major imbalances and cyclical gaps. The second good news, the Euro Club will be joined by a member that ranks number 17 among almost 200 countries in the latest World Bank's Doing Business report. If we were to look closer, Lithuania is the third in terms of this competitiveness index among euro area members. And finally, the euro area is gaining a partner that is financially disciplined, responsible, and credible. During the past 2 decades, we faced and successfully addressed several dramatic shocks, including the recent financial turmoil. And despite unprecedented turbulences and the related speculations, we have proven our ability to successfully function under the fixed exchange rate regime. As a central banker and supervisor of Lithuania's financial sector, I would also like to add that we will enter the banking union with a well-capitalized and transparent banking sector. It has not only dealt with its fragilities during the recent years, but also has accumulated twice as much capital as is required, and nearly all of it is of the highest quality. Turning to the other side of the coin, for us, the attractiveness of joining the single currency is obvious. By reducing the remaining frictions and barriers in the economy, the euro will have a visible effect on foreign trade. The elimination of foreign exchange risk and the expected positive effect on Lithuania's credit rating will also lead to lower borrowing costs to non-financial corporations and households. Moreover, given better access to liquidity support for the financial sector in times of stress, the euro means increased resilience to shocks and more stable crediting environment. All that implies that the euro is a natural and important step to our further economic convergence. Dear colleagues, big changes are always surrounded by myths or prejudices. That is the rule. Therefore, it is no surprise that such a grand change as currency reform is also accompanied by both big expectations and worries. To be honest, I am not very worried about worries. They help to concentrate for any exam, including the currency changeover. The experience of our neighbors, the Estonians and Latvians, also suggests that the fears will disappear shortly after the 1st January, when we find out that our national identity did not change. Prices did not explode, and we did not lose, but on the contrary, gained a voice in monetary policy matters by taking a seat at the ECB decision-making table. However, I feel obliged to warn against the positive myths. The euro gives us many opportunities, but big opportunities go together with big temptations. This is why now, after reaching the euro, we need even more self-control and financial prudency. To keep it short, staying on the track of self-discipline is a key prerequisite for long-term success. The euro is not an aim in itself. It only opens a big window for big opportunities, and their realization depends on us. Ladies and gentlemen, let us be realistic. Lithuania is not a heavyweight player that can change the weather on its own. But if we take Estonia, Latvia, and us together, I strongly believe in our potential to make a change. Lithuania's entry to the euro area completed the entry of the Baltic region as a whole. Being the last in the region and at the moment the latest entrant in the euro area reminds me of the medieval fresco in the Saint Pierre-le-Jeune church in Strasbourg. It portrays Lithuania as the last pagan European nation that accepted Christianity. I sincerely hope and wish that in the history of the euro, the picture will be different. Lithuania will not be the last, and speaking as central banker, in the coming decades, we will no longer need to make a distinction between the euro system and the European system of central banks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman of the Board of the Bank of Lithuania, Vitas Vasiliauskas. And now the floor is given to Prime Minister Algirdas Butkevičius.
Labas rytas, gerbiamas Europos Centrinio banko prezidentė, Europos Komisijos viceprezidentė, aukštasis komisarė, Latvijos banko valdybos pirmininkė, gerbiami svečiai ir visi šios reikšmingos konferencijos dalyviai. Džiaugiamės, kad Lietuva išlaikė nelengvą ir atsakingą pasirengimo eurų egzaminą. Įveikusi daug reiklių vertinimų procedūrų, sulaukė galutinio ES bendrųjų reikalų tarybos sprendimo. Dar kartą nuoširdžiai dėkoju Europos Komisijai ir Europos Centriniam bankui už paramą ir pagalbą Lietuvai, jau žengiančiai Europos vieningos valiutos erdvę. Taip pat esame dėkingi kaiminėms Latvijai ir Estijai, kurios geranoriškai dalyjosi savo patirtimi. Bendroji rinka ir Europos pinigų sąjungos sukūrimas didžiai prasmingas reiškinys. Tai visų eurozonos valstybių kartu atliekamas darbas. ES rinkos sėkme pagristas euro įvedimas dar labiau stiprina bendrijos stabilumą, kuris padeda atsilaikyti prieš ekonominius iššūkius ir yra būtinas tolimesniam augimui. Sėkminga eurozonos plėtra paneigia skeptikų nuogąstavimus apie Europos Sąjungos saulėlydį. Priešingai, matome, kad šis valstybių bendrijos modelis yra gyvybingas. Todėl labai svarbu, kad vieninga valiuta, Europos politinės ir ekonominės stiprybės garantas, ateina į Lietuvą. Rinkos jau pripažino, kad Lietuva verta euro. Galime skolintis pigiau, įgyjame vis aukštesnius reitingus, sparčiau augame. Tikiuosi, kad šio ekonominio augimo rezultatai turės vis didesnę įtaką ir Lietuvos žmonių gyvenimo gerėjimui. Euro įvedimas yra ne vien Lietuvos įveikusius ekonomikos krizę ir pasiekusius reikiamą konvergencijos lygį įvertinimas, bet ir puikus instrumentas tolesniai Lietuvos ekonomikos plėtrai. Tai ir dar vienas istorinis didžiausias pasaulio valiutos reformos etapas. Lietuva, 19 euro valstybė, pasirengusi aktyviai įsitraukti ES atsinaujinimo programą. Būdama viena Europos ekonominio augimo lyderių, atsineša ryžtą siekti užsibrėžtų tikslų, stiprų partnerystės ir solidarumo jausmą. Kartu gerai suvokiame ir laukiančius iššūkius bei atsakomybę, kad būtų laikomasi atsakingos ir tvarios viešųjų finansų politikos, vykdomos ryžtingos struktūrinės reformos, sėkmingai įsiliejama į bankų sąjungą. Lietuvos pirmininkavimo ES metu, priėmus reglamentą dėl bendrosios priežiūros mechanizmo, buvo žengtas svarbus žingsnis link Europos bankų sąjungos. Tai yra vieno iš pagrindinių elementų, kuriant ekonominę ir pinigų sąjungą. Todėl kitas Lietuvos siekis po euro įvedimo, tai yra tapti aktyvia bankų sąjungos nare. Kaip jau sakiau, euro įvedimą vertiname kaip ekonominio saugumo garantą. Tai dar viena priemonė padedanti siekti savo valstybėje didesnio finansinio stabilumo, toliau tvariai ir harmoningai plėtoti ekonomiką. Tai reiškia naujų darbo vietų kūrimą, gyventojų pajamų augimą, stiprėjantį valstybės konkurencingumą. Savame suprantama, kad mažai šaliai, itin daug prekiaujančiai su užsienio valstybėmis, lito išlaikymas ir toliau reikštų didesnės valiutos keitimo išlaidas, mažesnės Lietuvos gamintojų galimybės tarptautinėse rinkose. Be to netektume ir dalies potencialių investicijų, nes didžiulį eurų atsiskaitančių valstybių regiono investuotojai laiko patikimu ir mažiau rizikingų. Apibendrindamas su eurų siejamus lūkesčius noriu pabrėžti, kad tai bus stipri paskata mūsų valstybės ekonomikos augimui, gyventojų pajamų didėjimui. Vieninga valiuta padės mums sparčiau veikti ekonominės gerovės skirtumus su kitomis ES ir suteiks daugiau jėgų atsilaikyti prieš galimas finansinės krizės. Esu tikras, jog Lietuva bus atsakinga eurozonos narė, toliau bus vykdoma griežta biudžeto politika, užtikrinanti ekonomikos augimą, užimtumo didinimą, nedarbo ir socialinės atskirties mažėjimą bei sudarant sąlygas augti darbo užmokesčiui. Atsigaunant ekonomikai mažėja valstybinio socialinio draudimo fondo skola, todėl laikydamiesi užsibrėžtų deficito mažinimo užduočių jau galime planuoti pensijų bei kitų socialinių išmokų didinimą. Taip pat toliau sieksime palaikyti šalies ūkio finansų tvarumą, gerinti investicijų ir verslo sąlygas, suvaržyti kontrabandą ir šešėlinę ekonomiką, stiprinti kovą su korupcija. Lietuva yra įsipareigojusi efektyviai ir racionaliai naudoti ES struktūrinių fondų lėšas. Jos skirtos šalies konkurencingumui didinti, žmonių gyvenimų gerovei kelti. Spręsdami energetikos problemas, sėkmingai projektuojame ir įgyvendiname transeuropinių jungčių tiesimą, mažiname priklausomybę nuo iškastinio kuro. Po ES tarybos sprendimo Liepos 23 dieną Lietuva pradėjo intensyvę informavimo kampaniją apie euro įvedimo tvarką. Šiuo metu kaip tik vyksta seminarų ciklas beveik visose 60 Lietuvos savivaldybių. Finansų ir ūkių ministerijų, Lietuvos Banko, Valstybės vartotojų teisių apsaugos tarnybos bei kitų institucijų atstovai suteikia išsame informaciją apie euro įvedimų praktinės detalės. Kadangi gyventojų ir verslo atstovų interesai skiriasi, jiems yra parengtos skirtingos seminarų programos. Kartu su verslo bei savivaldos atstovais pasirašėme geros verslo praktikos memorandumą, kuris padės papildomai prižiūrėti verslą, kad visi su euro įvedimu susiję veiksmai, pavyzdžiui, kainų perskaičiavimas, būtų atlikti sąžiningai. Tai labai svarbus susitarimas veikti kartu verslo ir valdžios institucijoms. Todėl prisijungimas prie geros verslo praktikos memorandumų bus tęsiamas iki šių metų pabaigos. Lietuvai rengiantis nuo 2015 metų sausio 1 dienos įsivesti eurą, valiutos keitimo procese ypač svarbus vaidmuo tenka bankams. Jie turi pritaikyti finansinių paslaugų infrastruktūrą operacijoms nauja valiuta. Dalyvauti išankstinio pirminio ir antrinio banknotų ir moneto pasiskirstimo procese ir, kaip numato euro įvedimo Lietuvoje įstatymas, nustatytais terminais neatlygintinai keisti litus į eurus. Šalies komerciniai bankai su Lietuvos banku taip pat pasirašė tarpusavio supratimo memorandumą dėl gerosios praktikos rengiantis euro įvedimui. Bankai įsipareigojo intensyviausių valiutos keitimų laikotarpių dirbti ilgiau nei numatytos darbo valandos, sudaryti palankės sąlygas įnešti grynuosius litus į bankų sąskaitą. Taip pat taikyti kitas priemonės, kad gyventojai ir verslas galėtų kuo sklandžiau pasikeisti pinigus. Remiantis Liepos pabaigoje paskelbtomis Eurobarometro apklausomis, Lietuvos gyventojų pasitikėjimas eurų stiprėja. Palyginus šių metų pavasarį su praėjusiu metu rudeniu, euro rėmėjų skaičius išaugo nuo 40 iki 50%. Lietuvoje dauguma žmonių pritarė, jog euro įvedimas Lietuvai suteikia nemažai privalumų. Tačiau girdimi nuogąstavimai, pirmiausia, tai yra emociniai. Tai suprantama, ne vienam sunku atsisveikinti su vienu svarbiausių mūsų nacionalinių simbolių litu. Gerbiamieji, po 5 dienų minėsime nepriklausomybę atkūrusios Lietuvos nacionalinės pinigų sistemos sukūrimo 22 metinės. Tuomet 1992 metais, spalio 1 dieną, Litų komiteto sprendimu buvo įvesti laikinieji pinigai talonai. Per šį laiką susigrąžinome istorinio pavadinimo pinigą litą, sustiprinome savo pinigų sistemą ir pasirengėme finansų transformavimui į naują kokybę. Dabar mūsų šalis turės naują ekonomikos augimo ir užimtumo didinimo įrankį euro. Prieš nepilnus 2 metus, tik pradėjusi savo darbą, mūsų vyriausybė iškėlė tikslą 2015 metais Lietuva bus euro valstybė. Šį egzaminą laikėme atsakingai ir sąžiningai, nors teko išspręsti ir nenumatytų keblių finansinių užduočių. Man didelis džiaugsmas pasveikinti į Lietuvą ateinantį eurą. Sveikinu visus susirinkusius į šią aukšto lygio konferenciją, skelbiančią labai prasmingą šūkį Euras Lietuvoje, viena rinka, viena valiuta, bendra ateitis. Ačiū uždėmesį ir kūrybingo darbo konferencijai.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. And now, President of the European Central Bank, Mr. Mario Draghi, is invited to take the floor.
Dear Prime Minister Butkevičius, dear Vice President Katainen, dear Finance Minister Šadžius, and dear Chairman Vasiliauskas, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, you might be aware of the timer above the door of Lietuvos Bankas, Lithuania's central bank, which is counting down to the euro changeover, less than 100 days, exactly 98 days. It remains until Lithuania adopts the euro. Lietuvos Bankas installed the countdown clock 2 months ago when the Council of the European Union gave the green light for the adoption of the euro. But I'm sure that many of us have been anticipating this day for much longer. And we have probably asked ourselves, what does Lithuania's accession mean for the euro area? And what does the euro changeover mean for Lithuania? In my remarks today, I will elaborate on both of these aspects. With Lithuania introducing the euro, all 3 Baltic countries will soon be part of the currency union. This is a great asset for the euro area, not least because it demonstrates the euro area's attractiveness. Not long ago, the Baltic countries were in the midst of a deep recession. In 2009, Lithuania's GDP declined by roughly 15%. Today, Lithuania is one of the fastest growing countries in Europe. Last year, its GDP grew by 3.3%, as the governor mentioned before, whereas the euro area's GDP shrank by 0.4%. Quite remarkably, Lithuania managed to reboot its economy without any external support. The Baltic countries have demonstrated that adjustment is possible, even without currency devaluation. While Lithuania's government deficit stood at 9.4% in 2009, last year it had fallen to 2.1% and is expected to decline further. Beyond the economic aspects, the Baltic success story also shows that adjustment is politically feasible. Despite major fiscal consolidations, there was hardly any public protest against the government measures. So how was this possible? In my view, we can draw an important lesson from the Baltic experience. Governments not only acted boldly, but also immediately. They used the momentum of the crisis to implement the necessary consolidation and thus managed to convince the public of the need for these measures. Besides being politically astute, this swift and bold action was key in strengthening investors' trust. It enabled the Baltic countries to recover quickly from recession. The Baltic case shows that while consolidation might weigh temporarily on economic growth in the short term, it is the basis for sustainable growth in the long run. Beyond showing commitment to making its own economy fit for the euro area, Lithuania has also contributed to making the currency union as a whole more stable, even before becoming part of it. The priorities set last year under its EU presidency included more steps towards banking union and a further deepening of the economic and monetary union. To resume, the euro area benefits from Lithuania's accession in at least 2 ways. First, Lithuania has shown that adjustment is not only necessary, but also possible, even without currency devaluation. Second, Lithuania's decision to join the euro area demonstrates that our common currency is attractive, despite difficulties in some euro area member countries. But does the Lithuanian public agree that Lithuania will actually benefit from membership of the euro area? Or is the introduction of the euro just a project of the political elites? I'm aware that some Lithuanians would rather stick with the litas. According to survey data, only half the population favors the introduction of the euro. We certainly need to take such skepticism seriously. Europe cannot simply be a project that is imposed by the elites without the backing of the general public. Recent experience shows, however, that initial skepticism might well turn into support once people become more informed about their currency and the changeover modalities. Prior to their respective accessions, it seemed that citizens in the other Baltic countries were not really in the mood for the euro either. However, information campaigns and the reality of the new currency resulted in growing support, a trend that we are already observing in Lithuania. According to the latest survey data, support for the single currency increased by 18 percentage points from late last year to mid-2014. In Latvia, it even increased by 30 percentage points to 68% over the same period. And even though public support for the European project as such has been on the decline across member states during the crisis, if anything, citizens in the euro area countries have persistently demonstrated solid support for the common currency. In essence, those that are skeptical about the new currency have two concerns. First, they're worried that the changeover might lead to price increases. Second, they are afraid that their country might lose part of its identity. Compared with other EU member states that are not yet part of the euro area, these concerns are especially high here in Lithuania. 3/4 of survey respondents in Lithuania believe that introducing the euro will lead to increased prices. I'm confident that I can demonstrate that such worries are unwarranted. First, the ECB will be the competent monetary policy authority once Lithuania is part of the euro area. And I can assure you that we take our price stability mandate very seriously and will continue to do so. Second, the Lithuanian authorities can draw on the experience from 18 previous euro changeovers in designing measures to prevent unjustified price increases. I trust they will make sure that the new banknotes and coins will have the same purchasing power as the litas. Designed by Antanas Dzukauskas, the new coins resemble the litas coins, showing Vitis, the chaser, which is an adaptation of the country's coat of arms. But Lithuania will not just bring a national symbol to the euro area. In joining the euro area, Lithuania will effectively regain part of the sovereignty it gave up earlier. Lithuania's Minister of Finance, our friend Šadžius, allegedly said, and tell me if I'm wrong, we already have the euro, it just has a different name. What he was referring to was the fact that the litas has been pegged to the euro since 2002. But even before then, Lithuania's monetary policy was constrained by a fixed exchange rate. From 1994 to 2002, the litas was pegged to the US dollar. The chairman of the board of Lietuvos Bankas, my friend Vitas, has always participated twice as an observer, has already participated twice as an observer in the monetary policy meetings of the ECB's Governing Council. As of January next year, he participated actively in the monetary policy making of the world's second largest currency and economy. This shows that in an era in which nation-states are closely interlinked, sharing sovereignty means gaining sovereignty. If we explain this properly, and I'm never tired of doing so, I'm sure we can convince those worried about losing part of their national identity that rather than losing something, they will gain from closer integration. There are, of course, many more ways in which Lithuania can benefit from being part of the euro area. To name but one, international investors usually perceive the Baltic countries as belonging to the same economic area. With Latvia and Estonia already using the euro, Lithuania would have a clear competitive disadvantage when it comes to attracting investments from abroad if it delayed adopting the euro. Furthermore, belonging to the common currency area may provide stability for the country in the current geopolitical environment. I appreciate that the Lithuanian government approved a public information and communication strategy on the euro adoption, and I trust that it will do its best to implement its strategy such that laisvė, vienybė, gerovė, freedom, unity, well-being will not just be inscribed in the edge of the new 2 euro coins, but become reality. The way in which Lithuania has striven to become part of the euro area shows that our common currency is attractive despite the difficulties experienced in some member countries. But joining the euro area does not only follow from economic considerations, it is a binding commitment to European values. I'm happy to see that Lithuania is ready to make this commitment. Welcome, Lithuania. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, President Draghi. And now, Vice President of the European Commission, Jyrki Katainen, is invited to take the floor.
Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Governor, President of the Central Bank, of our Central Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be here in Vilnius today to mark this country's upcoming accession to the euro area, bringing the number of countries in currency union to 19. Being part of the euro area will strengthen even further Lithuania's position at the heart of Europe. This will be a major event for the country, the euro area and the European Union as a whole. Let us not forget how Lithuania got here. It was no easy task. This extraordinary country took as its Baltic neighbors significant fiscal and economic adjustments in the midst of severe economic recession and global financial crisis. Let us remember that in 2009 alone, the authorities pushed through fiscal reforms and consolidation measures worth 8% of GDP in the context of unprecedented contraction of GDP of nearly 15% in the same year. Crucially, social cohesion and political stability were maintained throughout these very difficult years. This determination and steadfastness of Lithuanians are now paying off. I would see this as an encouragement for the others. Lithuania's GDP has been growing by more than 3% per year since 2011, and the economy is forecast to expand further. The country has robust public finances, including one of the lowest public debt levels in the EU. Thanks to these reform efforts, Lithuania will enter the euro area from the strong position. From 1st of January, all the 3 Baltic states will use the euro as a common currency. This will further strengthen economic and trade links between them and the other 18 members of the euro area. Lithuania's euro adoption also underlines the vitality of the euro, of the economic and monetary union, which remains an attractive community to be part of. The euro area today coordinates economic policy more effectively. It has a robust financial firewall to safeguard stability and the gradual creation of the banking union. I have been proposed by the European Commission's President-elect Jean-Claude Juncker to be a Vice President for Jobs, Growth, Investment and Competitiveness in his new Commission. This is an unprecedented position, which involves working to strengthen the competitiveness of the EU and euro area, to boost investments, to help create more jobs in Europe. Subject to approval by the European Parliament, our priority would be to present an ambitious program for employment, growth and investment within the first 3 months of the mandate. This means deepening the single market and making the best use of public funds available at the EU and national level to stimulate private investment in the real economy. This should allow us to mobilize up to 300 billion euros in further public and private investment in the real economy over the next 3 years. It is evident that businesses, particularly SMEs, are the backbone of the European economy and create over 85% of new jobs in Europe. It is therefore imperative to facilitate investment and competitiveness, and without stifling businesses with too prescriptive and detailed red tape. At the same time, we must strengthen the currently fragile and protracted economic growth. This means unlocking growth in Europe and making it sustainable, to embrace structural reforms while maintaining sound fiscal policy to bring down deficits and debt levels in a growth-friendly way to improve confidence and credibility. This means consolidation should be prioritized in the area that can create economic growth and jobs. There is no way around these twin imperatives, as the lessons of the crisis have taught us. Let us also make sure to preserve credibility of our rules-based European system of economic governance. It has been our anchor of confidence, and we must do all we can to ensure it is not undermined. I am committed for our European governance rules to remain predictable and fair, ensuring that everything equal, the same rules apply for all member states alike, large or small, north or south. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now turn to Lithuania's next challenges. First, as regards the growth outlook, I would caution against any complacency, particularly against the backdrop of ongoing geopolitical tension across the border. Second, as Lithuania assured ministers in the Eurogroup in June, in order to ensure successful participation in the European Monetary Union, it will be essential to continue prudent fiscal policies, use macroprudential tools to reduce risks, and implement ambitious structural reforms in line with the European semester country-specific recommendations. Priorities in this respect include focusing on growth-enhancing expenditure, establishing growth-oriented tax structure while ensuring tax compliance, and further strengthening Lithuania's fiscal framework. Moreover, Lithuania needs to avoid the re-emergence of boom-bust cycles so as to ensure the stability of its convergence process. While I'm glad to learn that unemployment is on a declining path, it still remains high. There is much that can be done to reintegrate people into the labour market. This can be done, for example, by making active labour market policies more effective. making higher and vocational education and training system more responsive to labor market needs, and promoting lifelong learning. A particular concern remains to protect the most vulnerable in society. We have to tackle poverty and unemployment, particularly amongst the young people, swiftly and ambitiously. I believe that efficient social spending and successful active labor market support is essential to bring low-skilled, long-term unemployed and young people back to work. And third, let me turn to the practical preparations for the changeover. Adopting the euro is a big change for people in their everyday life. Careful preparation of the changeover to the euro is necessary to establish and maintain confidence in the new currency. Many lessons can be learned from the recent successful changeovers. Experiences of Lithuania's Baltic neighbors, Latvia and Estonia, and from other member states. Over the past few months, the Commission has been working closely with Lithuanian authorities to help with practical preparation for the smooth changeover. Since the start of the year, significant progress has been made. Considering that euro-related price increases are one of the main concerns voiced by Lithuanians, it will be particularly important to subscribe fully to the Memorandum of Good Business Practices. Through technical preparation of the changeover, including communication on its most sensitive aspects, will result in higher public support for the euro. I welcome the commitment of Lithuanian authorities to work toward addressing changeover risks related to rounding of prices. Experience shows that unjustified price hikes are most noticeable in the services sector, where competition from imports is limited. Decisive action is therefore needed for strong enforcement of competition rules, price monitoring and providing sufficient information to customers. Some people may ask what happens to the independence of the country once it joined the currency union. As a former politician of a small country, I recognize this question very well. Also, as a former politician of a small country, I have to say that today's interpretation of sovereignty means capacity to influence to the issues which you will face anyway. And it means that the authorities responsible is to maximize the capacity to get your voice heard. And that's why I think it is a very big issue also for Lithuanians to come together around the same table with the friends, with the countries alike. The latest Eurobarometer poll on attitudes towards single currency showed that public support for euro adoption is rising steadily in Lithuania. Support for euro adoption in Lithuania is higher than it was in Estonia and in Latvia right before euro adoption. Most Lithuanians are worried about abusive price setting. Looking back at previous changeovers, there has been no evidence for significant price increases attributable to the euro introduction. The Latvian experience is indeed encouraging in this respect. Introducing the euro will bring a range of practical benefits to Lithuanian companies and citizens, including the elimination of exchange risk and lower transaction costs. As a member of the euro area, Lithuania will participate in decision-making in Eurogroup and ECB on issues that have already affected the country during its 12-year-old back to the euro. I am also convinced that the stability-oriented policy framework of the euro area will support Lithuania's economic catching-up process, including by attracting more foreign investments. Ladies and gentlemen, Lithuania has reached a decisive moment in its history. The next task is to prepare for life under the euro, both in terms of successful short-term changeover to euro and longer-term economic performance and competitiveness. I'm convinced that our new framework for euro area governance and surveillance, together with our banking union, will make us better equipped to detect and contain risks of emerging imbalances in the future. In effect, Lithuania will be joining a euro area that is very different from what it was just a few years ago. Euro adoption anchors Lithuania's perception as a stable and well-respected partner at the core of European integration, and also, in view of Lithuania's difficult history and regional tension, further cements Lithuania's place in the Euro-Atlantic relationship, thus irrevocably strengthening national sovereignty. Being part of Euro has been and remains a central part of Lithuania's national identity. Joining the euro area will further strengthen this cause. As notes and coins are seen as an important symbols of national identity, the Lithuanian people have decided that the reverse side of the euro coins should reflect the profile of national symbol Vitis. This will provide a sense of continuity, given that Vitis was the first features on Lithuanian coins in this 14th century and during the first period of Lithuania's independence of 1918-1940. At the same time, Lithuanian euro coins will travel to all corners of Europe and the world, further enhancing Lithuania's international recognition and identity. Thank you.
The last speaker in opening speeches session, because very many ideas have already been said. And of course, we all understand this is a milestone event in Lithuanian economic history, but equally in European history as well. And milestone events, they are a bit emotional. The first feeling that you should express during such events is gratitude. And may I express my gratitude to all the people in Lithuania, all the firms in Lithuania, state institutions that joined together to make everything necessary for us to successfully join the Eurozone as of 1st of January next year. But also, may I express my gratitude to our friends in Europe that helped us not only with advice, but to be very frank, made the corresponding decisions. And the last but not least, I think today and these days, when the changeover is going to take place in Lithuania, we shall pay the tribute to our present and previous currency litas. The litas was introduced in 1922. It was an important step in establishing the independent Lithuanian state before the World War II. 1922. The best academicians, the wisest politicians that were involved in the state building, they decided that this currency should be strong, but they never said this should remain only the national symbol. They all understood this should be a tool to make and improve order in our economic house. Perhaps that was why litas survived the occupational 1940 and was replaced by ruble in 1941 only. After the restoration of independence in 1990, of course, the work continued, and the new litas, as we see now, survived even longer than before the World War II. As well, wise men thought how to arrange the currency circulation, our currency system, and monetary policy as to serve the best national interests. But the decision that was taken in 1994 was to introduce the currency board, because this seemed and proved to be the only real and strong tool to curb that hyperinflation that perhaps somebody of you in the hall still remember. I do remember myself. 1994, we pegged litas to the US dollar, and we repegged it to the euro very early from the magic date of 2nd February 2002, 1 month after the introduction of euro cash in Europe in 12 countries, which predicted that just the second attempt of joining the Eurozone would be successful for Lithuania. It happened. So we were in the waiting room until this year, when the positive decisions about Lithuania adopting the euro were taken. And the time has changed. Let me remind you that that magic date, 2nd February 2002, $1 was worth 4 litas, and euro 3.4528 as now. So until now, the situation has reversed. So this is not only numerical change, I think this also means that the world has changed. European economy has changed. We were in that waiting room, but not sitting and waiting alone. We were doing our homework, sometimes in very difficult conditions. Thank you, Mario, for acknowledging our efforts of our state to react strongly and immediately to the crisis challenges. Reaction was immediate. Of course, from the type perspective, we can see what we did right, what we did wrong. Anyway, I think it's very useful that we can learn lessons, and perhaps we can teach others of these lessons. Now we join quite another Eurozone. I think even our people's attitude changed. When we voted in the referendum in 2003 about joining the European Union, our seeing of the single currency was, I believe, quite different from what we see now. Now, of course, we are much more critical. But Eurozone has also changed very much. It was much simpler, even in 2006, when the first application of Lithuania was submitted. Now, we have a very complicated mechanism with its very strong monetary arm, which is European Central Bank, with a very strong, much stronger than before, political arm, which is Eurogroup, and even the Council of Heads of State of Eurozone countries. And we also have a security arm that wasn't there before, the European Stability Mechanism, that was not yet mentioned for perhaps different reasons today. We are building other arms. Banking union is another tool to put Eurozone together and make it much more resistant to external shocks. It survived, Eurozone survived, and Euro survived this huge crisis, almost without external help, with only a small part of it from IMF. It could survive even without that help. It proved very strong and should be even stronger later. Why? Because Eurozone can evolve by itself, it has internal forces, and it can learn from its lessons from its history and its fight in the battles with the crisis. And this is very good. Still, being so strong, I think, and we should see this, Eurozone still lacks strength in boosting the economies. And this is another huge, very difficult, but realizable job that should be done. Euro is symbolic. It is a symbol of our common European identity, our shared values, and the success of European integration that is taking place so fastly in bringing the people and nations of Europe together. There is a linguistic argument. Should we call euro common currency or single currency? Not everyone distinguishes the difference between these two notions. I would say, at present, euro is common currency. No doubt. We should strive to make it single currency. Is it simple? Not at all. Because we are united in our diversity. We're 28 very different nations in the European Union, and we will be 19 very extremely different nations in the Eurozone. But we should find absolutely novel, absolutely unique at the moment methods to improve economic governance, to coordinate our fiscal policies, because monetary policy is unique for the Eurozone, is guided by all the representatives of all the nations. Well, this is not true starting from 1st of January, when we will be present, not all at the executive board of the European Central Bank. Some countries will be rotated. Nevertheless, fiscal policies are different and will remain different. We must find some methods to better coordinate these fiscal policies. So, as of 1st of January 2015, we Lithuanians, my country, we find ourselves on a completely new building site. We have a project. We will be able to see new horizons. What action shall we take? Is everything clear for us? I don't think so. But I hope the panel discussion on these issues that will take place immediately after my intervention will be so fruitful that it will become much more clear for us what to do next, how to behave, and what benefits, real benefits for us and for Europe, Euro can bring. So I wish you a very good, fruitful discussion. And many thanks for these important and encouraging messages that we got from the European Commission and the European Central Bank. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Šadžius. And with this, our thanks go to